YouTube as well.
Yeah. Wow, my white shirt is actually not.
It's very white.
Yeah, it's very white. Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Welcome on YouTube.
Yeah, you're all very welcome tonight. Yay! Not sure who that is, but thank you for joining.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah, thank you for joining. Okay. All right. So, Fungs, do you want to introduce the session?
Okay, so today we're talking about adoption. So the title is "I Choose You," and I think adoption is quite I don't know. It's almost like it's a gift, really and truly, because when you're adopting someone, you're essentially saying, "I'm choosing you to be part of my family."
Yeah.
Whereas like if we have biological children. Yes, it's our intention to have children. Well, in most cases, but we're not handpicking the child. But with adoption, you're actually handpicking that child and choosing to make them part of your family. So it's kind of an amazing picture, and it kind of reminds me of like we are chosen by God, to be incorporated into his family.
Yeah. In fact, I'm going to come to that actually, but just a teaser for us all. So what do these people have in common? A few people. And T-Mac, you are not allowed to.
Why are you singling out T-Mac?
T-Mac, you're not allowed to respond or say anything.
Why are you singling out T-Mac?
So please, can anyone tell me what these three people have in common? Steve Jobs, Michael Gove, and Jamie Foxx. Anyone?
What do these people have in common?
Apart from the fact that they are well known. They're known. Yeah. What do they have in common? Any ideas? Right. We're waiting to hear from you. I was going to say there's a gift for the winner, but let me not promise that. So, T-Mac, what did I tell you? T-Mac, what did I say? I said do not.
T-Mac, you're not meant to be allowed to partake in this competition.
We know you are
your general knowledge is
you're working encyclopedia. Yeah. T-Mac, you let the
Job is a Syrian parentage.
Yeah. Imagine being the adopted parents of Steve Jobs.
So essentially, all three of them were adopted.
Yeah.
So they have adopted children.
No,
they were adopted.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So I thought that was just an interesting. Oh, thank you, T-Mac. It's okay. It's okay, T-Mac. Thank you.
T-Mac is telling us the parentage of the three people that we've
spoken
about.
I'm sure T-Mac doesn't know the parentage of
Jamie Foxx. But it's not easy though.
Oh, they are black, yeah. But, if you know, tell us, are they from Jamaica or where are they from?
Or America.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. So let's get into the session. I mean, you pulled out some stats, right? You're the stats lady, so give us some stats.
I haven't got actual stats, but general. So generally there are so we're talking about kind of BME, so Black and minority ethnic people. So generally people or children that are in the care system that are of a BME background spend longer in the care system and are they spend a longer time waiting to be adopted or waiting to be taken into foster care, etc. And also Black boys also are less spend longer time in the process waiting for adoptive parents, and generally the numbers of BME or potential adopters that are of BME background is lower, or is low, should we say. Generally in the care system, the wide majority of people in the care system are of white heritage, but there is a BME, a percentage that are BME, and they take longer to be adopted.
Yeah, but how does that stack up with fostering?
Actually, so I was speaking to a friend who is a social worker, and she said that whilst if you're looking at adoptive parents, BME, the proportion of BME is smaller. Actually, in fostering, there's not as big a gap. And there are probably a number of reasons for that. But there is a difference between parents that are willing to adopt and parents that are willing or able to foster.
Yeah, and one of the findings is the fact that obviously with fostering you get paid.
Yeah, so if you're a foster parent, foster carer, there is a financial incentive to fostering, but of course with adoption that isn't, and that finance may help to bring a child into your home, whereas in adoption there isn't that finance, and the parents have to essentially provide for the child. So so the financial incentive probably gives another reason a supportive reason in the choice of being a foster parent.
Yeah, I mean, in our own home here, I guess over the many years, I'm not even sure. I think I would say that from very early on when we got married, even before we had Daniel, right? Adoption has always been something that I've always wanted us to adopt, right? And we will still do that, But I remember that earlier on when I brought up the conversation, you weren't really up for it.
No.
Yeah. So why were you? Obviously, it wasn't because we couldn't carry or have our own children. It was just something that I'd always desired to do. So why? What were your thoughts at the time?
I don't think it was anything. I guess it's not. I don't know anyone who is adopted. I don't know anyone who's adopted. So it's just not something that came into my mind, really. It's not something that I thought about.
Okay. Yeah. No, I think for me, the burden here is the fact that, within the ethnic minority groups, but more so even within Christian circles, you don't really hear a lot of it. We talk about it, but we don't. Well, it's something that we think that the church should do, but not the individuals within the church. So,
but do we actually talk about it? I don't know. Do we talk about it? I don't think we talk about it.
Okay. When I say talk about it, I'm talking about the church universal, the Catholic, the church universal, pretty much.
Okay.
But in terms of the Christians, individuals, it's not something that a lot of us consider doing, and I feel that we're actually best placed to do that. A few scriptures come to mind, but I think I'll leave the scripture, the Bible verses to later, because I think that there is a real conversation to be had here. It would be nice to hear from you, from your thoughts, why we don't really consider that as. Fumi has mentioned the fact that for her it was just the fact that she just doesn't know anybody that is in that sort of situation.
So T-Mac was saying that he's sibling adopted, and someone said that he's not really spoken about in our community.
Yeah. Okay, right. On YouTube, any thoughts on that? If you have any thoughts on adoption on YouTube, we'd like to hear that as well. Hi, Manny. Hi. Right. Should we switch off that light and see whether it's better?
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, sorry, the light that we have here, because I'm wearing a white shirt, we're not able to read. I hope it's still clear though.
It's clear. Oops.
Yeah. Just switch it up. Don't worry. Just switch it up. We'll have to manage and make do. Next time I will know not to wear a white shirt. The background is not nice for reading the text. It's clear. Thank you, T-Mac. Right. Yeah. So please, your thoughts. If you have any thoughts about it, it's as of course, as a Christian, as a pastor, it's something that I'm quite somewhat passionate about it. And with my understanding of scriptures, which I will share in a little while, I think maybe I should actually do that, because I think it will be useful to share that before we bring on our guest.
Okay. So would you consider adoption?
Yeah. Would you consider?
Have you considered adoption?
Yeah.
Yes, no, or do you know anyone that has considered it, or is it something that you'd kind of suggest someone does?
Yeah. Any thoughts? Anyone considered it? Hi, Esther. Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello. Hi. Do you want to share the scriptures then whilst this comes up?
All right. So, in Psalm 68, actually, verse 5 to 7, the Bible describes God as father to the fatherless, right? And that obviously doesn't necessarily mean, people that are in care alone. I mean, it just means that God is always on the side of the fatherless or the motherless. Mm-hmm. But more, and I think the key point here is the fact that when we consider adoption, we are putting ourselves on the side of God, pretty much. And why do I say that again? If you look at many scriptures, actually in the New Testament, Romans chapter 8, verse 15, Galatians chapter 4, Ephesians chapter 1, all talks about the fact that we were all adopted. As Christians, we were all adopted into God's family, right? So adoption means, to bring in the child into a family. So from God's point of view, when we consider adoption, we are actually, embracing God's mind for humanity, really, and it's interesting, and you'd hear from the person that is going to share our own experience of how the church received it. So given that this is God's mind for the church, more than ever before, or more than ever, more than anywhere else, we ought to see more Christians considering adoption. But we don't see enough of that, and I'm hoping that with conversations like this and others, that we'll begin to see more people considering that. I mean, you don't need to be in a situation like in our case now. It's not, I mean, it's just a desire that I have that I would like to fulfill, Father, I remember having a chat with, many years ago, somebody who had a difficulty conceiving. She eventually had the child. And I said to her, well, have you thought of adoption? And she wasn't so sure about it, But after she then had the child, somewhere within me, I felt bad, actually. And I don't even know why I felt bad. I felt bad, asking her that question.
Why?
That's what I'm saying. So I actually don't know why I felt bad, but again, probably because it's not something that is spoken of within our community. Why should it be a bad thing? You get, and that's why we're having this conversation today. Adoption, would you consider it? And if not, why not? So yeah, I think on that note, we can invite our guest. I think
let's try and find her.
Yeah,
sorry.
We have a guest who will share our own personal experience with us today. The last one, yeah. Okay. All right. So, you're going to introduce our guest, right?
Okay, all right. So we're waiting for our guest to join us. Hello.
Hi everyone.
Hello. So this is our guest. Her name is Shola. So we've known each other for a few years, kind of professionally, shall we say? And she has adopted one child so far. So Shola, please tell us kind of your experience and what made you decide that adoption was for you?
Oh, please, everyone, please forgive me. This is my first time going on social media. I'm not on social media, but I'm very nervous. Please forgive me. What made me go on? I think, sometimes in one's journey of life, you come across problems. And for me, my problem was infertility, and that was obviously infertility associated with being a Black person, being Nigerian, as well as being in the church. So I was brought up a proper religious family, and I brought up that you can't have children out of wedlock. You have to have a husband the proper way, and that didn't happen to me the proper way. My story's a long way, but anyway, I'll kind of shorten it down. I have always had gynecological problems from the right get-go. So having children has always been a big issue for me. I've had about 5 miscarriages. I've been diagnosed with quite many gynecological problems. So that was kind of, and then I got married a bit late. So upon my husband coming from Nigeria, I forced him, Shola, to go and get a genotype done. And I forced him to go to the fertility clinic. And there I was told that I still have fibroids. I still have blocked fallopian tubes. I sat there and I was saying to myself, I'm a faithful person. I serve God with all my heart. If God asked me to do anything, I would do it. So how can I go through all of this? I've been told that I can't have children. I was devastated. I was in a state of depression. I use work as to mask myself. People ask me, you don't have faith, that's why you don't have any children. That annoys me, because I think in reality, as Christians, we don't put the reality, as well as we're so religious, and the religion consumes us. I used to remember that they'll call for an altar call every year and say, oh, come and pray for children. I will forbiddenly go, and nothing happened every year. And I sat down and I said to my husband, I said, should we try adoption? He said, no, we don't do that in our culture. I am, and being that I'm born and bred in London, they said, oh, you're very Oyinbo. That's how you guys think about. And I started thinking, I said, God, I had prayed about this beforehand, before I asked my husband. And I thought, oh, okay. I asked him again, and it caused a fight. And I thought to myself, okay, this is not wisdom. Let me go and pray. And I prayed to God. I said, God, I leave everything to your hand. If it is your will, then it will be. And then one day, randomly, I got back from work, and he said to me, oh, babe, that thing you wanted us to do, should we go for it? And I thought, what are you talking about? And he said, oh, adoption. I thought, are you serious? You know what it's all entailed? He said, yeah, let's go. I said, what changed your mind? I was in church, and a fellow church member had adopted, but they kept it on a hush-hush. And the child walked by, and he was touched by the Holy Spirit, going to go ahead. So I was like, when he told me, I was like ecstatic, but I was at the table, I was scared at the same time. And then we went through the whole process, which was kind of long and laborious, though quite invasive. But I kind of understand that it was all about for the protection of the child. And then we got to the part when we had about 2 interview panel, one to be adoptive parents, and one at the final to be accepted that the child that we choose is correct for us. The first one was like, it's like worse than a job interview. Yeah. I mean, I was bored, and I'm quite a confident person, but I was so emotional about the whole idea. And then when they told us we were adopted, I was in tears on that same day, and I had prayed to God about the whole thing. I always put God as my first thing. For any decision I make in my life, God is the first thing I do. So on that one, I prayed to God. I said, God, whatever happens is your will. So we got there. We were accepted to be adopters, and then we got my social worker. Were happy for us. And said, can we talk to you? Beforehand, they gave us a website to go on to choose children we want to. I was choosing. I looked at the website at work. I was in tears at work. The reason why I was tears, there were so many children that needed home, but they were Black, they were white, and I know there's this idea that we think that majority white people that are on adoption that need to be adopted. My sisters and brothers, I was astonished at the level amount of Black people, Asian people, children that needed adopted. Even the ones who are yet unborn, I was shocked I had to compose myself because I was actually at work. Even just thinking about it, the level of children in care is shocking. If I could take them all, I would have taken them all. But obviously, I need to just do one by one. Anyway, we got back to the office, and the lady said to us, "Oh, we've been looking at your profile online, and we're kind of keen." I said, "Okay, just me and my husband. I don't know what's special about us, but anyway." So they looked at, and they passed us a picture. They passed us 3 pictures of children, and 2 of them I kind of looked on site, and I think, okay, but they passed us the 3rd one, and the moment we looked at this child, we fell in love with her. Mm-hmm. It was like it's like God had opened something and given us love for somebody we've never met before through a picture, and we fell in love instantly. My husband, I looked at my husband, and I'm obviously British cool. And I talk too much, and my husband said, I looked at my husband, and my husband said, yes, let's go ahead. And we went ahead, and to cut the long story, and we had to go to a process where we go and meet her for the first time, and that was scary. And she kind of got closer to my husband, which was nice. And then we got to the part when they brought us over to us for the first day. It was daunting, you want something so bad, and then when you get it, it's kind of overwhelming. And I'm a workaholic, as everybody might know me. People know me, I'm a workaholic. So having to take 6 months off work to stay with a child that I've known, not a newborn. We adopted her from the age of 17 months. And but when I went back to work, I realized how much I love this child. I thank every single day. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me in my whole life. Wow. I think obviously knowing God and knowing Jesus and knowing my husband, words can't express how much I love her. Please forgive me. My first time on social media.
You're doing great.
You're great. You know what? As you're sharing, it's just so touching, honestly. Like I was speaking to you earlier, and it is so touching because you can just feel the love, the intentional love that through this adoption process, and it is just so endearing to hear. So, just appreciate you for sharing your story. Yeah. Kind of just wanted to kind of tease out, you mentioned that your husband said, we don't do that from where we come from. So with regards to like adoption, how have you, what's the reaction been like from people within your culture, church, family, etc.?
Bearing in mind, my family are very, my siblings and I are born in this country, so they kind of accepted it. My husband's family, obviously, for the typical Nigerians. I remember somebody said to him, "Why not?"
Look, someone said that you should adopt them.
My husband said, "Why not?" And when he said, "Why not?" that just cut the ice. They didn't say anything at all. And to be honest, they accepted us and the child, and it was not easy. The church was a bit of a stickler in the sense that I took her to church for the first time, and typical me, I don't care what people say about me, and don't come near my child. I'm like a lioness. So I sat there, and people were looking at me strangely, and if I want to be honest, it bugged me, the fact that people wouldn't come next to me and say they haven't seen me for 6 months, and they didn't bother to say, "Oh, hi, Shola, how are you?" They all sit and look, staring at me like, "Who's that?" Besides, that her friend's child. And by week 2, they're thinking, "Oh," so they would go to my husband and ask my husband, "Who's that child?" And bless my husband is such a lovely husband. Is saying that, "Go and ask her." And what it is. I think the icebreaker I decided I wanted to go and testify about what God did to me in church. So I stood up and I went to, at that time you had to write your testimonies on a piece of paper and someone else read it for you, which I didn't agree, but anyway, I did it anyway. So the person who took my paper said, "Oh, seriously? You want to do that?" I said, "Yes, I want to do that because I'm proud of what God did to me." So she couldn't go ahead with it. So I spoke to somebody, and that guy was a British guy. So you understand where I'm coming from. So he took and I went up, and I went there, and I said, and the pastor asked me, "Oh, what do you come to testify?" I said, "Oh, God made me a mother." And if you look at his face, he was shocked. I looked by the church, and they were shocked. It was dead quiet. You could cut the air with a knife. Nobody was like responding. You know how when people say give testimony, everybody's screaming and shouting in the church. Yeah. Nobody said a word. And I was like thinking, okay, I'm grateful, because if you've not been in a situation where you're not a mother, or we're going to mother, who have gone through the infertility issues that I've gone through, who have gone through many miscarriages that I've gone through, if God blesses you in this way, you will shout in the mountain tops that God has blessed you and thanking God every single day. So I did. So I said, my last thing I said to the church was the fact that I said, if we're a church that gives love, why are we not showing the love? I think there are too many children out there. Please not be mistaken that there are only white children out there that needs your love. There are many African children. Don't be disillusioned that they're not children of our race that needs your love. They're dying. They're desperate. If I can do this a million times, I'm trying to convince my husband to do it again.
You just said that on Instagram Live, yeah?
Hopefully he's watching this. But if the last thing I can say is, I think God has used me. Sometimes we don't realize that our tears and our sorrows is to use to bless for somebody else. Yeah. And I know there's somebody out there who is probably going through something that I might have gone through or had gone through in the past, who wants to be a mother but doesn't know how. And it is a bit hard. It's hard being a Black person, and also hard being a Christian, because we're so set in our ways. And there's this religious thing, and we find it very hard to put the reality of life into Christianity and put it together. And if God says that we can go out there and love the widows and love the people like that, why are we not doing it? Why we just assume that by giving money is the only way we can show what God tells me to do? There are many ways you can show love to God's children, because every child out there who hasn't got a mother, who hasn't got a father, who's going for something, needs your love. Yeah. And I think, and that's why when your lovely wife told me, I was like, I said, oh God, I'm going to jump on social media. But sometimes, and I know God has been telling me that I need to use my friend to talk about it, that you may bless somebody else. Yeah. And I'm not afraid. I think it's probably the first post I will do. I want to do many more. That is just to encourage sisters in the church and couples in the church that there's nothing. Yes, it may be a slightly long process, not too long. But if you think about it, that saying about that says, though you cry in the night, then you have blessing in the morning.
Yeah, as scripture. That's actually scripture as well. Yeah, so go on.
It's funny how I forget about the pain that I've gone through so many years ago when I see my beautiful child's face every single day, and the joy she gives me, the cheekiness she gives me. She's like, look, she's going on 15, and even though she's a toddler. But it's the best thing I've ever done, and I encourage people to go out there. And I think there are too many children out there that needs your love, and if you can give someone's love, you don't pay for it. It's for free. God gave it to you for free. Yeah. Give it to someone for free.
Thank you so much.
Now, I just want to mention that we have one or two other questions actually. But when you talk about the testimony bit and how the church didn't really see that as a testimony for you. And I imagine if the child could actually give a testimony, that definitely was a big testimony for her. Absolutely. And to be chosen in that way, so when I look at it, it's all round testimony. We all should be excited about that, and it's not, you've made it clear now that it's not just you giving the love, but also in the love that you are getting out of it, how your life has been transformed by that whole experience. I think, it's amazing, just the idea for me it helps me to see. I mean, obviously, I'm yet to adopt, and we will. I mean, that's one of the plans that I have for my family. I think I'm finally managed to get me around doing that now, so it's coming. But for me, like I said in the scripture, one of the things about adoption is that it helps us to get a perspective, or a different perspective, about God, really, because we're all adopted into Christ. We are all adopted. That's what the cross is all about. That's what the salvation story is all about. So you actually have a better perspective than most of us, really, about God's love for us. So
I think sometimes I remember people make comments to me saying, "Oh, you don't have any faith, because of your lack of faith." And I think, "Oh God, really?" I'm one of those people. I'm one of those people that if we want to bring the heavens down, I will bring the heavens down with my kabashta, praise and worship.
Yeah.
And I remember telling your wife that I at one point when it was really bad, I used to question. I was angry at God, and I said to God, I said, if I was just so loyal to you, why would this happen to me? And then God said, why not you?
Yeah.
What makes you different from somebody else?
Yeah.
I said, everybody, I made you whole, but you come. And what was funny for me, God said to me that, how can you determine how I will make you become a mother? And that put me up. Because truly, I tried my effort, it didn't work. And I think maybe my destiny was destined to this child. So I have to go by what God's plan is for me.
Yeah.
So, and I chose that way. And I think, and I'm grateful for the fact that my husband is a man. Yes, I mean, to be fair, and this is a secret, I never was into Nigerian men. For the sole reason, the fact they won't understand my Britishness. But being a husband that was meant for me by God, he understood all this stuff. And I think he's such an encouraging man that he through our experiences, he now talks to other couples who are either going through China. And I think it's a mission for us, ministry, that we can use our experiences to unite other people. That in the church, yes, God is a God that made doctors, made medicine. All these options, IVF, these are all God's. Why do we church people bash it because we don't understand it? I think it's time for us to enlighten ourselves about things that God has made and does.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much for sharing.
So one more thing, actually, you have a few other questions.
I was just going to ask about the hiddenness.
Okay, let me ask a question before we come into that. With what you now experience, right? If you had your own children, would you have adopted now with what you've experienced?
Even before I met my husband, I wanted to adopt. I remember I was sat down and watching TV. This is many years ago in the 90s, and I saw this clip of these two mixed race children, and I said, "Oh, I wish I could." But at the time, I didn't understand. To my thought, I didn't actually proceed it. Sometimes you see something and you have an idea that you wanted to this in your heart, but you don't proceed with it. And I think sometimes situations push you to go and explore the options. I could have just said no and just live our lives here. But I just thought, for me, I when I pray to God, I say, God, give me an idea, and God will give me an idea. And unfortunately for my husband, I'm like a dog with a bone. I won't let the idea go until it's all sorted out until I get another idea. So that's how the adoption kind of went. But yes, I've wanted to do it a long time ago. I just didn't have the courage to do it on my own.
Okay.
Thank you. So one of kind of the question we were speaking about earlier is that there is kind of informal adoption, or people adopt, but they're not necessarily open about it. And so what made you actually be open about it?
I think partly because I think when I started, I remember somebody made a comment to me, "Oh, don't say anything about it, or there's a hush in the church, don't talk about these issues, And I'm thinking, but I think to my advantage, maybe because of me being British, because I don't think that should be an advantage. I just think that we should be open. I think there are too many people in the church, and I got sick of going to the altar every year and nothing changed. it didn't take away from my faith. It didn't take away my love for God or my closeness to God. I think it's sometimes we have to reevaluate our lives, our Christian journey, and be practical and understand what we're going for. And I think it was just it was something that inspired me just to go ahead and open. I think I'm a very open person. Anybody that knows me, I'm a black and white. I'm going to be open. I tell you, I'm not ashamed to tell you that I've had infertility issues, because that's the reality of my life. There's nothing big about it. I can't hide that. So why not say to the whole world, and someone could benefit from my my life journey.
Yeah. So I mean, one of the arguments that people give about the Oshosh thing is not so much about the parent, but about the child. What do you think of that? Is that a reasonable argument?
What do you mean by about the child? That the child is not.
Well, so the child will grow up, almost, stigmatized in that way.
I think it's how you raise your children. I think I raised my child that she's a special gift from God.
Yeah.
She's loved. She's cherished. I think it's how you make your family. We don't look at. The thing about it, I don't look at her as she's a daughter. She's my daughter.
Yeah.
That's just the way it is. And as I said before, I'm a lion. Anybody come near my child, I'm gonna roar.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't. It's why should we? And there I go again in the church. Is that I remember I felt before I got adoption that I felt unconscious stigmatized in the church where you don't have children. You can feel it, but you can't see it. But you sense it in your spirit. When you walk around with a long mother, or every year they'll call out all those people that had newborn babies, and I'm thinking, oh, I've had a child, not the way you traditionally done, but why don't you celebrate me too? Because I'm a mother, and I mean, God blessed me, so why am I different from the other ones who are not, who gave birth to down below? So it's little things that we need to change in the church that make everybody valued and loved.
Yeah.
Even the ones that don't want to adopt and don't have children. But I do think that as Christians, we have to show love to the children out there. It's our responsibility to go and love every single person that needs our love.
Yeah, no, definitely. Any other question?
So someone asked the question, what would you say to a couple who maybe are struggling with infertility, but haven't thought about adoption as an option?
I think it is from my own experience. I think you start talking. I think sometimes couples are a bit scared because I think we're so I don't want to use the word religiously minded. The fact that we have to keep praying to God, and God will make it. And I'm not taking that out of the question that God makes. God is a God. Is an awesome God, and He does many things. But God is a God that is a multifaceted God. He can bless you in so many ways.
Yeah.
And sometimes God will bless you in the ways that not what you want, but what you need. And sometimes we focus on the thing that what we really want, the ideas of what we want it's supposed to be. For example, I thought that by the time my husband come back from Nigeria, I'll be having loads of kids. That didn't happen. So what do? Sit down and do nothing? No. I think idea of adoption is a wonderful thing. Ideas of IVF is a wonderful thing. These are things that God put in place, and He's still allowing them to happen. And most of all, we are all God's children.
Yeah.
I think you just have to keep talking to one another. And one thing I will say to the couples is the fact that don't let any person to take you away from what you're thinking you want to do. Because a lot of times people think they want to do it, and they go and tell somebody in the church, and they discourage them, and they sit there and they wait. And I can give an example. I had a friend who I've known quite a longer time, and she's in the church. And I said to her, "You may not do what I have done, but I think that you should go explore it." "Oh no, my husband's family will not allow it." "But your husband's family is old, and you have tried everything, and you are unhappy. Do you want to continue to be unhappy? Do you want to be a mother?" "I do, but I can't disobey my husband's family." And I just felt saddened in me that we allowed the third party to rule our happiness.
Mm.
And I think we need to talk about it in church. Talk about the difficult questions that we don't want to address. We have to, because in reality, take our health is part of our life. As you're a Christian, does not take away the fact that you may have cancer or you may have a lung problem. That's just part of who you are. So I think we need to talk about it, and I think it's an issue, it's a topic that is that we evade and we gloss over, and then we don't answer the people ask the question. I like to ask questions. They don't like me until they call me a renegade in the church, but I don't care. I think we need to address issues that are happening amongst the members of church.
Yeah.
Day in, because we have a bad habit of masking our problems and come to church and looking like Princess or Queen Mary. Yeah. We are decked out in our gillies, in our makeup, in our dress, but we're sad inside for things that we have no understanding how to solve.
Yeah.
I think we need to talk about them and be blunt and explore. And I think the pastors have a role to talk about adoption and talk about infertility and talk about infertility on the man's side, on the woman's side. We have to talk about, because people are suffering. Yes, we pray and we can bash, but these things are not going away. Yes, one person may be saved, or you have people who may have infertility, about 100 in the church, and one person had the miracle baby. What about the rest of the 99? What happened to them? So I think we need to talk about it. And so thank you for inviting me to this platform that I know if I would talk about this, but I'm grateful for giving me the opportunity to say what I needed to say about my journey.
Yeah. I mean, you said you're not too familiar with social media, but I'm not sure whether you're able to read the comments that they're coming through. Can you read the comments on the screen? I mean, there's been quite a lot of them. You've been getting a lot of, raving comments. People are like, well done, you're doing good. They're proud of you, you. So the response has been really amazing, so, thumbs up to you. Now, what's your daughter's name?
Her Nigerian name is Boluwatife.
Yeah.
Meaning that the way God wants it to be.
Yeah.
I couldn't control it, but God decided this is the way it's going to be.
Awesome. So tell us, one of the things, when I'm out and my children are home, and I'm just thinking about them, maybe one or two events in the day or something that happened that just sort of brings a smile to my face. Just give us one or two things, that have warmed your heart, that Boluwatife has done.
Oh my gosh, she's oh my gosh. The one that comes to my mom, she's a bit of a funny thing, but which is a bit that's something that comes to mind. So I was on my daughter's like a glue to me. She's a very tactile child. So I'm on the toilet and I'm saying to her, Mommy's going to the toilet. She said yes. I said, well, what, you want to go to your toilet on your potty? She said no. I said, but where does wee? And I said, what does that sound like? She said it's wee wee. And I said, okay. Does Mommy wee wee? Where's Mommy wee? On the potty? And she looked at me. No, Mama, I'm not going to wee wee in my potty. I'm going to wee wee on your potty. Or things like, or she asked me. I can't. There's so many things I can say about her. That her little attitude. I mean, she's going over 3 now, and she talks like a 15-year-old. I mean, literally talks like a 15-year-old. She does so many things that I'm walking on the corridor on a busy hospital ward, and I just think about what she does and says. It just cracks me up. I mean, I think that it's the innocentness about her at that age that she makes us laugh every single day. Or now that we started to teach her how to pray, so we take turns in praying. So my husband did it one day, I did one day, and then she prays as well. And we just listen to her, and she will say, "Oh, thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends." And that just cracked us off. At least she will say, and she will say, "Heavenly Father," and it just cracks you up. And I think the little things that makes me grateful to God that I am privileged, and I say the word privilege, to be a mother. I mean, I'm just building a relationship with my own mother back for many years, so I can understand what it means to be a mother, and I am grateful. I am grateful. I mean, I can't express that too much. I am grateful to be a mother.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Just so someone's asked kind of if they wanted more information about adoption and the process. Can you recommend any resources or organizations?
Yes, we went to. I think the agency. The adoption is free. The only thing you pay for is for your police check and medical check. We went for an agency, and I can't remember what the agency is called now. But I think the process takes about a year or so, or a little bit more. I think what makes it a bit longer is if there's a person for myself, my husband was obviously born in Nigeria, so he had to do everything in Nigeria. And you know how Nigerians things to get paperwork, that took a long time. So the agency we went through was called Quorum.
Okay.
Sorry, my husband.
Thank you, husband.
Quorum was a very good place to do, and I think it's funny how God has started to send people my way to give advice and support and direct them. And so I sent somebody, and this person was actually I was actually at work, and I mentioned I don't like to start using the word adoption because I think that she's my baby anyway. But for some reason, I mentioned the word adoption, and this young lady called me and explained to me, and she wasn't even Black. She said to me, "Oh, I've been going for an issue." And I said, "Why don't you adopt?" And then the next day, she went on to Quorum, and she believed that Quorum had booked up their sessions for people to want to come. So, please, anyone out there who's even listening, go. It's not as bad as you want. I think that in order to get a blessing, you have to go through a journey.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a big, massive blessing, the harder the journey will be.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, if the awarding journey that you and think about this, if God wants to bless you, He takes the praise at the end of the day. Mm. So that's why I'm grateful to God for the journey I've gone for, even though it was a tough one for me, as the woman who had the issue with the infertility. But I'm grateful to God for giving me a husband who loves me despite of my flaws. I mean, I sometimes say to someone, I say, "Do you want to go and marry somebody else with him one do?" And he said, "No, I love you for you." And I struggled with that because obviously being married to an African man who want their own children, I accepted that, and I pray to God. I think God is a God that touches heart, and so I'm grateful for Him. And I'm grateful to God, and I'm grateful for everybody who can listen to my story.
Oh. No, Shola, so thank you so much. I mean, like you just sharing is just very touching. And so someone said, amazing testimony and well done for your courage. Thank you for sharing on social media. Thank you so much. And thank you to your husband. Thank you to your husband as well, for allowing you for enabling you to share, shall we say.
Thank you.
All right. Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye.
Thank you. Yeah. All right. Wow. That's truly
what an amazing story, testimony.
Yeah. And I mean, to be honest, it's more than just that story. Well, our story is more than just adoption story, to be honest. She's been very open about even our own gynae challenges. And talked about, a very loving husband, so all wrapped in one. You've given us 3 for the price of one, pretty much. So we really appreciate that. Appreciate you, Shola, for that. Now, I think as we begin to round up, for me, what came to mind, obviously, in our own scenario, she was in a situation where she couldn't have her own children, and whilst that's some people's experience, but I'm also putting the challenge out there to those of us who have our own children, but there's still room in our own heart and possibly in our home for another child. Some people have said, I'm done with raising children, but I think it's something that is worth, opening up our hearts to, not to say that we'll do it, but it's something that definitely God's hand is upon, so that's just my thoughts. Right. Okay. Any thoughts from you guys? Yeah. Okay. She's a true woman of God. Yeah. Thank you, Maya, for that.
Adoption does seem like a ministry, really.
Yeah.
You're choosing this child, and you're choosing to love this child.
Yeah.
And to make them a part of your family, because otherwise, them growing up in the care system, the opportunities for them can be limited, but by creating a home environment, it's creating a loving environment for them. So to
be honest, it's not even just the opportunities in terms of material opportunities.
Oh, no. Love.
It's the love, and because if a child can, like Pastor was saying earlier on today, it's that environment, so if the nurturing environment is there, every child can thrive, in a very loving, caring environment, So I think for me, this session actually is probably the most, at least definitely, if not the most, definitely one of the most inspiring Blue Sofa sessions we've had.
Yeah.
I've been greatly blessed on many levels. Thank you, Shola, for sharing that with us. I meant to have two guests, but Shola's was so engaging that there was no point having a second person on. But thank you also for viewing. And I don't know, does anybody have any other thoughts or questions, or do you have anything, or should we just
any thoughts, any questions? If not, then sorry.
What are your thoughts
on adoption shows a lack of faith argument? That I think that is a challenge, and that is a thought, isn't it? And I think Shola mentioned it earlier, that it doesn't mean that she's giving up.
Yeah.
If you're adopting, does that mean that you're giving up?
Do you know, I know of stories of people who adopted and then went on to have their own children.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know whether that's an argument for or against, but the reality is that, you see, God, in my view, at times we put God in a box, that God has to work in a certain way, and you can't deal with God like that, We definitely can't deal with God like that, If that argument holds true, that lack of faith, but I'm sure that we would all agree that God also cares for the children in care, right? And we are the hands and feet of Jesus, right? So, could it be that our blessings are tied to those other people, those other children as well? I don't think it's a lack of faith. I don't know about you. There are things that I'm praying for. I've been praying for a long time now. I still haven't received them. Do I then put my life on hold because I haven't received them? So I don't believe that it's a lack of faith. That at times you just surrender your life to God's hands. Regardless of, and for her, she might have given up, but it doesn't mean that God cannot do a miracle, right? Even God doesn't need our help to do what He needs to do. If God still wants to open up our womb now, He can still do it. But then a child is blessed already.
Yeah. And I guess also from the point of view of giving up of God, I think it's also seeing it as being a blessing to this child.
That's the point. Yeah.
So whilst, yes, we want children, but also this is an opportunity to be a blessing to a child that has no parents.
Yeah.
Or has no family.
Yeah. You have no control of when your own child will come.
Yeah.
But at least you can choose to do something now and be a blessing to somebody else. After all, we're called to be a blessing. It's more blessed, to give, and this time to give love than to receive. Of course. So if you eventually don't have yours, then God is, you are double blessed, But I think it's an amazing. I don't see that as a lack of faith. I think it all comes down to the attitude of the heart at the point of that decision. You know, if you see that what God could use as a way of blessing my life whilst on the journey to having my own, or even if I don't have my own, I mean, the three Hebrew boys, what they said, I mean, I think that encapsulates it all. You know, if God delivers us, great. Even if He doesn't deliver us, doesn't change anything. You know, so yeah, I don't think it's a lack of faith.
So there's a charity that I came across, which is called Home for Good, and it's a Christian charity that is looking to promote adoption and also fostering within the Christian community. So for those that would like to explore and find out more, there are some inspiring materials on there. There's also some films on there about adoption, and it is really